Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Irish Abroad Show. It's myself, Paul Tierney, and I'm joined by main host Gerard Browne. Ger, how are we? Congratulations for Sunday as well. Pats won the cup.
Cheers, Paul. Yeah, all good. It's been a good couple of days and weeks. Obviously, Sunday was a very eventful day. First and foremost, it was just a brilliant occasion to be there. The buzz, the atmosphere in and around the stadium, pre-match and everything else like that was fantastic. The noise created by both sets of fans was unbelievable. The attendance there was brilliant. It had all the feel. Pretty much, I got the train up from Roscommon that morning. Pretty much, as you came into the city centre, it had the feel of a big game, like as if there was a big Ireland game, the Aviva, or there was a big GA match in Croke Park. Dublin was captivated by this match, which was absolutely brilliant, fantastic to see for the League of Ireland. Jerseys everywhere. It's just a shame and a pity that we couldn't have more occasions like that. Maybe it's an endorsement to maybe move cup semi-finals to neutral venues like the Aviva or even the RDS. Maybe do the equivalent like to do in the Super League and Rugby League in the UK. Have a Magic Weekend or Super Weekend, the Aviva. Look, there's a lot of logistics to that, complications to that. But just ideas to kind of get more games where it just captivates the whole city and the whole country, like the TV audience and everything was fantastic from it. The game itself, to be honest, I don't think it was as bad as kind of people made out to be. First and foremost, I never bought into the hype that this was going to be an unbelievable game because it's a
Mm-hmm.
final, it's cagey. A lot of these players not used to playing a stadium of that size in front of that massive crowd. You know, it's never really the best game I kind of feel to kind of like buy people in to try who aren't used to League of Ireland because it doesn't always showcase how good the league can be because of the type of nature of the game that is.
Mm-hmm.
But I still thought the first half was quite decent, a couple of good chances, many for Pats, thought they were the better team. Second half, I do think was poor. There was large stages that second half where nothing really meaningful happened. Balls grew into it. But it was great to see in extra time when both teams couldn't be forgiven to just sit back and, not blink and go straight for penalties. But both teams really went all out to win it. You could say both probably should have won it towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of Ross Tierney chances, a couple of good saves by Yaros. Rory Feely's header cleared off the line. And like both teams went all out for it. Absolutely that wonderful, wonderful goal as well by Chris Forrest. And then penalty shootouts, their lottery. I genuinely thought when Chris Forrester missed, I was like, oh, don't tell me it's going to be one of those days. But the momentum and the pendulum swung straight away when Tyreek Wilson missed his penalty. And then Keith Ward as well. You have to feel sorry for those two players. But credit to Jay McKellen who got the penalty to get balls back in level terms and shootout. And then Robbie Benson with that fantastic finish. But I suppose you can't really not mention Pats and mention what's everything that's happened the last kind of couple of days. And it does kind of take away a little bit that kind of cloud nine feeling and you feel like you've been dragged back down to earth. It's just annoying and frustration when you hear some of these rumours, whether they're true or not, of how it's come about that Steve O'Donnell's left, the way that he kind of told the players it was made up in advance, everything as well about the contract does kind of quite annoy you. But look, on the other side of things, it looks like at least it's good to see Pats look like they're moving quickly and they're getting a manager in and Tim Clancy, who I rate very highly.
Yeah, I agree the same. He was brilliant in the first division 2 seasons ago now, and I think Drogheda had a very good season last
Yeah.
year, particularly the start as well. So I think he'll come in and do a good job. And it looks like he's going to bring in a couple of his recruits from Drogheda as well, Mark Doyle and James Brown being linked as well. So they'd be two very good signs and would only help to improve Pats as well.
Yeah, James Brown would be an interesting one because I think we pretty much ruled that one out of any chance of him coming to Pats because
Mm.
it looked for all intents and purposes he was going to cross the water. But if it is true to them rumours, that would be an absolutely unbelievable addition as well. Obviously, there's strong rumours as well that Anto Breslin's on his way in because I was thinking maybe Connor Kane could be another good player to bring in from there, but I suppose he takes care of that kind of left side. Keelan Phillips is another player I really like from Drogheda, but it does look like he's obviously on his way over to England. But as you mentioned, the likes of Mark Doyle, another player as well, I wouldn't mind see coming in if he wants to follow his manager would be someone like Jake Hyland as well. Of course, the big thing as well with Pats is how many players are potentially going to follow Stephen O'Donnell up to Dundalk, or how many players will kind of see their commitment towards saying Pat's more so than Stephen O'Donnell. I think the likes of Ian Birmingham, Chris Forrester, Lee Desmond, why these type of players are out of contract, they've been there through thick and thin over the last kind of couple of years, and I don't see them type of players walking away. It's probably more recruits that he's brought in, obviously the likes of maybe a Paddy Barrett and Robbie Benson who have Dundalk connections, John Mountney. I don't see him going because of the fact he's a long-term injury. It's probably going to be the last quarter of next season before we could see him. But the likes of Matty Smith as well, who's come in there as well this season, has been a revelation. He'd be a massive player to go if he was to follow Stephen O'Donnell.
Yeah, definitely. And look, we'll see in the coming weeks anyway. Obviously, this is the Irish Abroad show, so we don't want to. We do have enough League of Ireland content. Not that there ever is enough, but we do have to focus on the players who are abroad. And just a quick mention, we're going to have Swedish-based journalist Philip O'Connor on the show later on to discuss the title race in Sweden. Obviously, with Zac Elbouzedi playing for AIK, they're still involved, and it should be a dramatic weekend ahead. And we'll be talking to Philip later, so make sure to stay tuned for that. But we'll kick straight off into the Premier League anyway. We'll start with the weekend. Obviously, this being a double game week, obviously there was not much Irish involvement, but on the weekend we did have Seamus Coleman. He played for Everton. He played the full 90 minutes for Everton in another defeat for them. They got beaten 1-0 by Brentford away. And he got a 4 out of 10 rating from the Liverpool Echo. They said his passes down the right flank they too often didn't find their intended target. A number of long balls caused frustration for the fans and the teammates. And look, same old for Everton, and it continued into this week as well.
Yeah, and same old as well for Seamus Coleman. We'll come to talk about their game from last night later on as well. Yeah, I was just saying there, I had my notes, that made it 7 games without a win for the Toffees. Obviously, as we well know, and I'm more than too happy to say they got a pasting from Liverpool last night, makes up for when they got a rare victory against us at Anfield last February. Now makes it 8 games. Seamus, as anyone who know, was heavily involved at fault for their third goal. I would even maybe put them slightly at fault as well for their second goal, but say we might touch on that a bit later. But yeah, worrying times for Everton. They're only 5 points above the bottom 3 now, with a far cry from when they were joint top of the table back in September. They've just fallen off a cliff over the last kind of couple of weeks. I still think there seems to me, maybe it's an easy thing to point out, but there just seems like it's a psychological effect that's still hanging over from that collapse against Watford a couple of weeks ago now at this stage. Not only just to lose the game after being 2-1 up into the last 10 minutes, they conceded 4 goals and end up getting absolutely trounced 5-2 by a Watford team that are very much up and down, probably more on the downside of things. But yeah, I said before the game, I didn't think Benitez would get sacked from this one unless it ended up being a heavy defeat. And that's what it turned out to be. It was a 4-1 pasting in the end, as I said. And Liverpool were absolutely all over them. I know Demarai Gray got a goal just before half-time. And then they had, I think, a chance was Decore got blocked just before half-time. They could have made it 2-2. But apart from that, they never raised the gallop. Second half was a cruise to Liverpool. And once when Salah made it 3-1, the result was never in doubt. So, you wonder, it does look like as if Benitez isn't going to be sacked. But for me, they've got Arsenal yourselves on Monday night at home as well. Then they've got Crystal Palace. For me, I think that's going to be the make or break game for Rafa Benitez. I think if they lose that game, I think then he'll probably be out the gap, because that'll be 10 games potentially without a win.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Arsenal game is a big one for them as well.
Yeah.
They usually put it up to Arsenal at Goodison, beat them last year as well. So, I mean, it's a big game for them. And obviously with Arsenal playing Thursday as well, they've got 2 massive games coming up themselves. But depends on how much they exert in them. But Everton will be well up for that. And I'm sure the fans will be as well on Monday. They'll have to be, because it's do or die, as you said. But quickly, as you said, there was nothing much else on the weekend. No one else played or even came on. So we can run through Tuesday and Wednesday in the Premier League anyway. We've just mentioned Liverpool. They beat Everton 4-1. Seamus Coleman was involved in that. Wasn't great again. We start off with Tuesday anyway. Another disappointing defensive performance. Kieran Clark was sent off for Newcastle after 9 minutes. It was a cynical foul on Timu Pukki. After his own mistake, put Pukki in, and he was probably going to score by the looks of it. Jeff Hendrick was on the bench. Newcastle did get a 1-1 draw, but look,
probably should have won that game, to be brutally honest.
Yeah, they probably do have, but even in the first half, they looked a better side. Norwich didn't take control at all, but very poor from Clark. Very poor.
Oh, brutal. Norwich, from their point of view, for me, this is a game that probably kind of would have been targeting and would have wanted to win anyway. But that's definitely 2 drop points for them, given the fact they played over 80 minutes that game and a man extra. And it wasn't until Pukki's equaliser, which was a wonderful goal with 10 minutes to go, that they actually came to life in this one. And obviously maybe should have won it towards the end. They missed an absolute sitter. But yeah, for Newcastle, it's a bittersweet one, because I think when Clark gets sent off so early on, it throws out the window any chance of potentially winning the game. Then they go 1-0 in front. They're playing kind of quite well. It's a game they kind of really had to target. we're nearly halfway through the season. They still haven't won a game. They say 40 points in around that mark is the magic mark. So ideally, you want to be getting yourself in around 20 points halfway through the season. We're about 5 games away from that. They're on 6 points at the moment. They don't even look like they're going to reach double figures for the halfway mark. So still a massive, massive mountain to climb for Eddie Howe and co up in the northeast of England.
Yeah, they do have Burnley at home on Saturday, which again is another game they should be targeting to try and win. Burnley, however, are very tough to break down, and they'll be the next team we mention here. Anyway, Nathan Collins was playing for them last night, and he had a very good performance. He got rated 8 out of 10 by Lancs Live, saying, sorry, I missed it here. There it is there. Another composed showing, and he continues to impress. So that's good for Ireland anyway. But Burnley 0, Wolves 0. I mean, on paper, probably looks like a 0-0 draw. Both sides who are very good defensively. But good to hear Nathan Collins had a good performance as well.
Yeah, good to see him back in the starting team. He was one of them players, and I was looking through starting lineups last night thinking, would he ever possibly just get back in because of the fact they got a couple of games coming up? Now, I know they didn't play at the weekend. Their game against Spurs was called off due to snow. But yeah, it was good to see him back in his first game in 6 appearances. And probably it would be fair to say on the level of performances that he's put in, after Shane Duffy, he's probably been the most impressive Irish player in the Premier League this season because, well, I mentioned it's his first appearance in 6 games since the end of October. He's only maybe played, I think, 4 or 5 Premier League games now max this season. But it's just due to the fact that he's just, new in the door, young player coming from the Championship, feeding his way into Premier League. Sean Dyche probably just managed them. They've gotten established back two in Ben Mee and James Tarkowski, who he trusts down through the years. And it is a case that there's no two ways about it. And inside next season, I can see him becoming a Premier League regular, especially if one of them players moves on in the summer, which they highly could. But in every showing so far, he's been really, really encouraging. He's been really, really impressive. Again, you mentioned they were Lancs Live last night. At Burnley, we talked about them playing Newcastle the weekend. They seem to become very much a draw specialist at late Burnley. I think that's now 4 draws in their last 5 games. I think they're actually now unbeaten in their last 5 as well, because the other game they didn't draw was a win. They're kind of a very, very hard team to break down. So I wouldn't be surprised if that game at the weekend is another draw. Wolves, obviously, they're next up for Liverpool on Saturday night. I still think that could be a potential bananas game because Wolves have the tendency to be really, really good. But that's 2 disappointing results to them after the Hyatt beating West Ham just after international break, to only draw 0-0 with Norwich and Burnley, 2 teams who are going to be the ticket relegation battle this season. They will be disappointed because they were one team I was touting up a couple of weeks ago. I thought they could push really hard for Europe. They're not the type of results, unfortunately, that would back up a prediction like that.
Yeah, I think I was looking at the table last night when it was still on with 10 minutes to go. If they'd got a goal, they would have gone ahead of Arsenal. They would have only been a point behind West Ham as well. I think Wolves are, from what I've seen them this season anyway, particularly at the start, they're based on defence. They play on the break. They try and keep clean sheets as much as they can. But I still think, is it Bruno Lage or something? He's done a good job so far.
Very good job, yeah.
Yeah, it's tough to come in after Nuno, who've done a brilliant job and even got them to the Europa League quarter-final not too long ago as well. So, look, yeah, as you mentioned, a tough game for Liverpool as well. They'll find it tough to break them down, probably tougher than they found to break Arsenal down anyway a couple of weeks ago anyway, which says something.
Well, Liverpool have no problem breaking down anyone. They're averaging 4 goals in their last 3 Premier League matches.
True.
But once again, I probably put my my foot in my mouth again by talking of Liverpool, because the last time I'd done that, we lost to West Ham, so maybe I shouldn't have said anything.
Anyway, there's one more bit of information from last night's games. Shane Duffy helped Brighton to a good point at West Ham after having his own goal disallowed for VAR. Now, I didn't see that. I didn't see what happened there, but did you see it yourself?
No, I unfortunately had my own game last night, a senior league semi-final that didn't go too well, so I only just watched the first 3 matches from Match Today when I got home last night, because it was over an hour's journey away, so I haven't got around to watching the rest of Match Today yet, so I can't comment on that one either, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, grand. But anyway, look, good that it was disallowed anyway for an Irish perspective anyway. And a good point for Brighton at West Ham, who have been struggling lately but have got through the Europa League.
Yeah, and they've got through to the round of 16, so they don't actually come back in the Europa League until March. They skipped around, so more focus on the Premier League for them now for the next kind of couple of weeks. Yeah, a bit like Wolves, they've dropped off a little bit since that Liverpool victory. They haven't won any of their last 3. I know they've had Man City away was always going to be difficult. They've now got Chelsea this weekend as well. I'm not 100% sure on where the venue for that is. I think it actually could be.
It's at the London Stadium.
At the London Stadium, so yeah, that will make that one tasty. I think it's a lunchtime kickoff as well on Saturday, so make sure to get yourself in to watch that one. Yeah, not a bad result for Brighton. I just think Brighton need a win. I think it's 9 games now without a win. They're still steady. They're still doing okay in the league. Like I watched their highlights of the match against Leeds at the weekend. That's a game that they should have won.
Yeah.
They're still playing quite well. I still think they're going to be okay this season. But you've seen there was a couple of unrest among the fans with the reaction afterwards to the Leeds game. No, I don't think they should be overly too despondent with Graham Potter.
No,
Just could do with a
no.
win, but still, that's still not a bad result for them as well. And just one last thing as well from the Premier League, just to touch on as well from Tuesday night's game between Newcastle and Norwich. Adam Idah came on to the last 24 minutes of that game for Norwich. The Pink Un gave him a 6 out of 10 rating, saying encouraging cameo, some nice touches and build up to his game, willing to engage in the physical contest, but still lacking the nous to locate goal scoring positions, which I think we can very much relate to, even in a green shirt of Ireland. A step forward compared to previous offerings. And even encouraging from that he was given 24 minutes, because that's his longest appearance so far this season. I think his most prior to that was 15 minutes. So hopefully, if these words from the Pink Room are reflected upon his manager, Dean Smith, that he could be given more chances in the games to come.
Yeah, definitely. There's a load of games coming up. I heard people talking about if you're in a cup quarter final or if you're in Europe as well, you have 10 games until January. So that's loads. That's about 7 Premier League games, give or take as well. So there'll definitely be opportunities there for Adam and hopefully for Andrew Mbamdeli as well. Do you want to move on to the Championship? Maybe you could pick that one up. No midweek games in Championship this week, so it's just a weekend.
Yeah, but it's still probably going to take about 40 minutes to get through it all
Yes,
because of the
still
Irish
about 40
contingent there.
minutes.
Yeah, I can run us through the championship from the weekend. I'll try and get through it as quickly as I can. So starting with the Friday night game, Jason Lumby was sent off for West Brom in their 0-0 draw at home against Nottingham Forest after picking up 2 yellow cards in the space of 10 minutes. Callum Robinson played 71 minutes of this contest for West Brom. A West Brom side that have now very much fallen back into the chasing pack of the playoffs as opposed to pushing Bournemouth and Brentford in the automatic promotion race. Alan Brown played 90 minutes, Sean Maguire played 60 minutes, and Greg Cunningham came on stoppage time as Preston had an impressive draw against Fulham on Saturday and also ruined my accumulator straight away. Dirty Oaks. I was actually worried.
Early kickoffs.
I was worried it was going to be yourselves because Fulham were winning 1-0 at half time. And I was thinking, grand, they'll probably go on and do the usual Fulham thing and score about another 6 goals in the second half. But you were drawing 0-0 in Newcastle, and that's when I was getting a bit worried.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Martinelli put you 2-0 up, I was thinking, great. Then I seen Preston equalised. So
did you see Preston's goal as well, Jay?
I didn't. I actually was out Saturday night, so I didn't do my usual quiet Saturday night.
Jerry, you'll be sick if you see it. You'll be sick if you see it. Blatant handball. Handball.
Well, I think I also had Swansea down to beat Reading, and Reading won that game. So it wasn't the only reason why my accumulator was torn to pieces on Saturday. Just more on this game instead of my own personal disappointment, but rare personal disappointment from the weekend. From Lancs Live player ratings, Alan Brown got 8 out of 10, Sean Maguire got 6 out of 10, and the Lancashire Post gave Brown a 7 out of 10 and Maguire 6 out of 10. Of course, the fact that Cunningham, when he came on stoppage time, he got no ratings. Ryan Manning scored his first goal of the season, but still on the losing side. As Swansea City went down 3-2 at home to Reading. He got a 6 out of 10 rating from Wales Online, saying some decent moments in the Reading half and took his goal well. His first for Swansea. Mark McGuinness and James Collins for Cardiff and Glenn Ree for Luton were all in action as the former bet the latter 2-1. So that was a 2-1 victory for Cardiff against Luton. Wales Online gave McGuinness a 7 out of 10 rating and Collins a 6 out of 10 rating. Darragh Lenihan helped Blackburn to back-to-back clean sheets and victories as they won 1-0 away to Stoke, and the Meath man got an 8 out of 10 rating from Lancs Live, saying yet another extreme performance from the captain, who was equal to long balls Stoke sent in his direction and provided Black Rovers with the platform to build their attacks. Conor Coventry and Jack Taylor both played 90 minutes for Peterborough, and Sammy Smaddox played 32 minutes as they ended their 3-game losing run after a 0-0 draw at home against fellow strugglers Barnsley. Coventry picked up a yellow card in this game. All 3 players picked up 6 out of 10 ratings from the Peterborough Telegraph. Sean McLaughlin and Dan McNamara, who picked up a yellow card, were up against each other as McLaughlin's outfit whole bet Maguire's. I can't understand why I keep saying Maguire. Bet McNamara's outfit Millwall 2-1. McLaughlin got an 8 out of 10 rating from the whole Daily Mail, saying Collis at the heart of the defence, coped with the onslaught from Millwall late on in the second half, and looks like a player who City can't be without. So he's really hit the ground running with them over the last kind of couple of weeks. His Hull have been on a fantastic run of late. McNamara was the news at Den joint star man with a 6.1 out of 10 rating. Mark Travers and Gavin Kilkenny were both part of the Bournemouth team that threw away a 2-goal lead to draw 2-2 at home against Coventry City on Saturday. Travers got a 7 out of 10 rating from Dorset Live, and Kilkenny got a 6 out of 10 rating. Scott Hogan played 90 minutes for Birmingham as they won their first game in 4 as the Brom's Bay. Blackpool 1-0 at home. He got a 6 out of 10 rating from the Birmingham Mail. And Enda Stevens and David McGoldrick both got assists as Sheffield United were victorious 2-0 at home against Bristol City. John Egan and Conor Hurahan both started this game for the Blades as well, while Callum O'Dowd picked up a yellow card on the Bristol City side. Player ratings from this one: the Yorkshire Live gave Egan 6 out of 10, Stevens 7 out of 10, Hurahan also 7 out of 10, and McGoldrick completed a hat-trick of 7 out of 10 ratings from an Irish point of view, while O'Dowd received a 5 out of 10 rating from the Bristol Post.
Brilliant. Good going. Mad League, the Championship, and it's only going to get madder as the weeks go on as well.
That is for sure.
I think Fulham are playing Bournemouth tomorrow night as well, which is, I think it's tomorrow night. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not sure, but it's in a couple of weeks anyway, so that should be a cracker between the top two anyway.
Two teams who've dropped off in form a little bit, you would have to say as well, over the last kind of couple of weeks.
Yeah, definitely dropping points where you wouldn't think they would be.
So yes, that is correct. That game is tomorrow night, so that should be a good one to watch tomorrow night, actually.
That's good Friday night viewing, better than Brentford and Watford on Friday night football anyway, we'll say that much.
Is that on tomorrow night?
No. I'm just saying that's usually what they have on Friday night in the Premier League, because everyone is playing in Europe. So, well, besides Arsenal. But
haven't Arsenal played a lot of Friday nights this year, actually?
Arsenal have been on twice on Friday night this year.
Yeah, so...
And I think they're on again in a few weeks as well or something. I don't know. Yeah, awkward for us when League of Ireland's on, in my opinion, but we keep going. I think we should... I'll move on into League One anyway. There's a couple of bits of info there. For Sheffield Wednesday, and we'll start off with that. Olamide Shadipo got his first goal, and he got an assist as well. Well, he'd be claiming an assist in the 2-2 draw with Wickham as well. Good to see him on the score sheet anyway, the man unknown from QPR. A Thomas O'Connor goal and a clean sheet for Conor Shaughnessy helped Burton Albion to a 2-0 win at home to Doncaster. Very lowly Doncaster. Not too long ago, they were in the Championship as well. Wes Hoolahan played the full 90 minutes in Cambridge 2-1 defeat against Sunderland. I think he got man of the match in that as well. Cambridge man of the match anyway. A clean sheet for Gavin Bazunu in Portsmouth's 1-0 win at Gillingham. It's their 6th win in a row in all competitions. I think 4th win in a row in the league. And Ronan Curtis, Marcus Harness, and Sean Williams also played for Pompey in that. Warren O'Hara and made his 50th MK Dons appearance in a 4-0 win at Morecambe. Troy Parrott was back from injury, I think. Shane McLaughlin and Ryan Delaney also played in that. The latter both playing for Morecambe in that game. It was a clean sheet for COVID hit Oxford, as Luke McNally was involved in that as well. And Chiadozie Ogbeni was playing for Rotherham in that 0-0 draw. So 2 clean sheets for both players there. Will Keane grabbed his 9th goal of the season for Wigan, and James McLean played as they won 2-1 away at Plymouth. That's a big win at the top of the table in League One. And finally, Dan Crowley set up a goal for Cheltenham in their 2-2 draw with Bolton. Owen Doyle and Sean Long both played in that game as well. Owen Doyle played for Bolton and Sean Long playing for Cheltenham Town. So that's League One anyway. Do you have anything to add?
No, that's pretty much it. Just on Will Keane as well. He got an assist as well for an injury time winner for Wigan in that top of the table clash against Plymouth. As you mentioned, 9 goals for him for the season. If you include assists, it's 13 goal involvement. So he's having a fantastic season so far to date, the newly capped Ireland player. And good as well to see Shadipo hit the ground running with Sheffield Wednesday, because I remember we touched on him on one of the first shows at the start of the season. He picked up an injury, I think, in a League Cup game from the start of the season, but good to see he had a good personal moment. His manager Darren Moore was very impressed with him afterwards. And also as well, from an Irish kind of point of view, good to see youngster Kieran Brennan, who's made 3 consecutive starts as well for the Owls. So good Irish contingent there, not just in the red half of Sheffield, but also in the blue half as well.
Yeah, two big clubs as well, Sheffield United and Sheffield Wednesday, particularly Sheffield Wednesday, who obviously being in the 3rd division is a bit of a surprise. But look, as you mentioned, 2 very big clubs there. I'll just do League Two. I only got one bit, and you can add maybe if you want. It's from Friday night. Alan Judge set up Freddie Sears equaliser in Colchester's 1-1 draw with Newport County. Alan, there's two names as well. Two names who should definitely be playing at a higher level. Maybe because they're a bit older now. But I mean, Freddie Sears, it's not too long ago. He was playing for Ipswich Town in the Championship, and they were in the playoffs. So yeah, do you have anything to add in League Two?
No, that's pretty much it. That's the only one bit of information. Just good to see Alan Judge back because that was his first appearance since the 8th of October. So he's been out with injury over the last kind of couple of weeks. I do have a few bits here from the EFL trophy from the week, so I might just maybe run through them as well. Troy Parrott was sent off in stoppage time for NK Dongs as they bet Leighton Orient on penalties after drawing 0-0 over the course of 90 minutes. The EFL trophy has now reached the knockout stages. This was the round of 16, so they've now reached the quarterfinals. NK Dongs, who will also be in the quarterfinals, are Bolton Wanderers. They bet Fleetwood 1-0 with Owen Doyle getting an assist in that game. And fresh from getting an assist at the weekend in the league, Alan Judge got 2 assists for Colchester as they bet Swindon 2-1 away from home. So they will also progress further on in the competition. And finally, under 19 international Harry Vaughton got an assist as Oldham bet Sunderland 1-0 away from home. A very impressive result there for the League Two strugglers. And they also will make up the contingent in the last 8 of the EFL trophy, or the Papa John's trophy, I think. Was that his last sponsor?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, God knows. I remember when it was Johnson's Paint Trophy, it was the best one. Should have just left it at that. Easy to remember. Same as the Carling Cup as well. Easy to remember.
Exactly. You're hitting the nail on the head there, Paul.
Yeah, easy. But sure, look, sponsorship. That's the problem. That's good. That's all. I think you've got everything I got there from the AFL trophy. Maybe Kieran Sadlier scored a penalty in a shootout as Rotherham beat Port Vale 5-3. It was a 1-1 draw there. Joshua Coyote also played in that as well. So, look, yeah, interesting. I think Arsenal's under 21 side are in the quarterfinals of that as well, which is I think it's mad that they play in that competition. Good for experience, but I just think it's mad. It takes away from some of the clubs who actually want to win a bit of silverware during the season.
I think you should get fully behind the Paul. It might be a day out for you in Wembley.
Give over. Day out in Wembley. We're in the
remember, you can play 3 overage players, so you can pick. Well, first and foremost, Saka probably still falls under the age category of under 21.
So does Smith Rowe.
Smith Rowe as well, and then you can probably pick flipping
Ramsdale. Put Ramsdale and keep them
out. Someone like Martin Odegaard as well in midfield or something like that. So you could have a very experienced team for the final. That probably breaking someone like Oldham or Colchester's hearts in the final.
Oh God, mental. Anyway, that's the EFL trophy. Anyway, move on to Scotland. Anyway, I've got a small bit. Anyway, Ryan Sweeney got the 3rd goal as Dundee beat Motherwell 3-0 in that game. Dundee have actually been in fine form the last couple of weeks. Won again last night too. Actually, I forgot to do Scotland last night. So if you
have Scotland from last night, so
brilliant. Joe Shaughnessy was sent off as St Mirren went down 2-0 at Tynecastle against Hearts. The usual suspects all played for them, and I'm pretty sure Joe Dunn was back for them. There was one lad. So they had another Irish lad back. Charlie Dunn. Sorry, that's the one. I forgot to write that down. He was back as well. So look, another Irish player at St Mirren. Jake Doyle-Hayes helped Hibs beat St Johnstone. Jays Kabaya got 10 minutes in Livingston's 3-1 defeat against Rangers. He's been in and out so far this season.
It's actually only his second appearance.
Only second appearance. Yeah.
His previous one was in the reverse fixture at Ibrox against Rangers in the open day. He's been out with injury though.
Fair. They just like him. They just like him playing against Rangers probably. And James McCarthy and Johnny Hayes played the full 90 minutes in Celtic 2, Aberdeen 1. Good to see James McCarthy get full 90 minutes anyway, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's first in a Celtic shirt this season as well, which is really encouraging to see as well. Just a couple of bits to bring as well from the Scottish Cup from the weekend. Conor Salmon got an assist in Alloa's 5-0 win against Bonnyrigg Rose at home. Brilliant. And Rory Payton came off the bench to score in the Queen of the South's 2-2 draw with Cove Rangers away in the Cup. So that one will require a replay. Unfortunately, Cove Rangers is not as a unique name to say as Bonnyrigg Rose.
Brilliant. What a name. There's some cracking team names in Scotland. Unreal.
Yes.
Unreal.
I can bring you the midweek roundup now as well, because just like in the Premier League in England, the Scottish Premiership had a double game week. So Jake Carroll came on for the final 6 minutes as Motherwell made it 3 wins and 4 as they bet Dundee United 1-0 at home on Tuesday night in front of the Sky Sports cameras. If anyone was watching this or even seen highlights of it, the pitch was in absolutely atrocious condition in Fir Park. Charlie Dunn, Alan Power, Conor Owen and Jim McGrath all played for St Mirren as they drew 0-0 at Ross County at home. All of those players except for McGrath picked up yellow cards. That's a disappointing result for St Mirren because Ross County are bottom of the table and really struggling. And St Mirren themselves have kind of gone off form the last couple of weeks after a really good patch there back in the autumn. Jake Doyle-Hayes got a yellow card as Hibs lost 1-0 to Rangers at Ibrox. So Rangers avenging that recent defeat against Hibs in the Scottish League Cup, and Giovanni Bronkhorst getting his first league win at home as Rangers manager. Ryan Sweeney and Dundee made it back-to-back wins and clean sheets as they bet St Johnstone 1 at home. As you touched on there, they have been in very good form lately. And Johnny Hayes got an assist as Aberdeen ended a run of 3 straight defeats with a 2-0 win over Livingston at home last night. And of course, one game tonight, Celtic Free Hearts, which hopefully will have some Irish contingent as well involved in that one, the likes of Liam Scales, James McCarthy from a Celtic point of view, and Aaron McAniff, all possibly, from the Hearts point of view, all possibly likely to be involved.
Brilliant, yeah. And that's it from Scotland anyway. I can briefly go through Europe, and just to mention again, we do have Philip O'Connor later talking all things Swedish League with Zac Elbouzedi obviously involved. And we'll start off with him and AIK. He grabbed 2 assists as AIK came back from 2-1 down to Elfsborg, who were just behind them in the table as well, as we mentioned last week. They won 4-2, and they now play Sirius, whilst Malmo play Hampstead on the final day, and it's Malmo just need a point, I think, really to win.
Pretty much because there's a goal difference, yeah.
Yeah. But look, we've seen dramatic final days before. It could happen again.
And Malmo's opponent, Hampstead, they need to win to be guaranteed to avoid the relegation playoffs. So all possible scenarios on the table, as we mentioned as well. Like that win, as we touched on last week, at least guarantees in European football next season. Obviously, we'll get into that in a lot more detail with Philip in the second part of the show.
Yeah, definitely. We'll go through Europe again. There's actually a couple of other bits of information from Belgium as well. We'll start off with Josh Cullen. He helped Anderlecht beat Sporting Charleroi. They won 3-1 there. It's their first league win in 4, and that's a team who are ahead of them as well, so that's a good win for Anderlecht.
Yeah, and they climb up to the table now, up to 6th on 25 points. So that was a good win for them, to say, beating someone above from the table, given the fact they've been so stop-start this season.
Yeah, and as I mentioned as well, there was Belgian Cup action this week as well, and Josh Cullen scored his penalty in the shootout as Anderlecht beat Serang 4-3 on penalties after a 3-3 draw. So cracking game there, and they're into the next round of the Cup as well, which is important too, considering they'll be looking to get into Europe. Every avenue, they'll be looking to get into Europe. They'll be trying to get into Europe via every avenue possible, so that's a good result for them, and great to see Josh stick his penalty away as well. One more bit of action from Europe I have is Graham Carey played the full 90 minutes and he was cautioned in CSKA Sofia's 2-0 defeat at league leaders Ludogorets. They're now 7 points off Ludogorets, which is disappointing. I think Ludogorets have a game in hand, or Sofia. There's a load of game in hands in that league anyway. So look, it's not all done yet, but
far from it. CSKA Sofia have the game in hand, and they're back in action tonight against fellow Sevilla rivals, Les Sevilla. I think that's how you pronounce it. So chance them to hopefully get back to winning ways in that one as well. And that's all I have from Europe, same as yourself. So I just give us the one bit of information from the A-League, and that should be us done for the first part of the show.
Brilliant, yeah, work away.
Yeah, so just one Irish involvement from the A-League from the weekend, and that was Jay O'Shea, was part of the Brisbane Roar side that shifted a heavy 3-0 defeat away to Melbourne victory. Of course, just the second round of games there in the A-League that only got up and running there the weekend before last.
Brilliant, yeah. So that rounds up the first part of the show anyway. As we've mentioned, Philip O'Connor will be joining us shortly, so do stay tuned for that. We'll be talking all things Swedish League, which should have a fascinating end this weekend. And look, there's a couple of games on tonight as well, as we've mentioned. We obviously can't get them in, but look, we'll keep on top of it and we might discuss it next week as well. So stay tuned for Philip O'Connor and we'll talk soon. Thanks very much, guys. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Irish Abroad Show. It's myself, Paul Tierney, and I'm joined again by Gerard Browne, and delighted to be joined by Philip O'Connor, Swedish-based journalist Philip O'Connor, to talk all things AIK, Zac Elbouzedi, and the end of the season in Sweden. Philip, how are we?
Grand lads. Actually, today is actually the first day it snowed this winter, so the whole country got up and fucking lost its shit completely. So, and it has a little bit of an impact on the game now, which is going to be on Saturday at 3 o'clock local time. So I just heard on the way here, just before the conversation started, that they're going to close the roof on the Friends Arena. I don't know if you remember a few years ago when Sweden played against Ireland, and the whole thing was, "Oh, will they open the roof? Will they close the roof? Can they do it?" And it was like one of the most tedious things I've ever heard. But we're back to that now as well. And as it turns out, that the game is going to have a closed roof, and as a result, it's going to be classed as an indoor sporting event. So everybody's going to have their COVID passports ready to go and that kind of thing. But it's the last game of the season, and it's that kind of thing that everybody's really, really looking forward to it now, because the title race has been really competitive. It's been mad. It's almost like nobody actually wants to win the title here, but it's still up for grabs on the final day of the season.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. And obviously, we're talking about that. Obviously, we have Zac Elbouzedi involved, personal involvement for ourselves. How's he done so far over there? Obviously, we've only seen the stats, but you would have seen a bit more, to be honest.
Yeah, I have to say, I think he's done really, really well since he came here, right? So basically, he came here during the summer, and when something like that, when you hear an Irish player's coming here, all of a sudden, the first I hear about it is people start sending me text messages going, "Do you know who this Irish player is that AIK are looking at?" And you kind of think you do, and you start to sort of, have a word with a few agents, have a word with a few players, And Zac's name wasn't the one that came up. Like, I mean, there was some really big names came up, like lads who would have been in recent international squads, really high-profile League of Ireland players. Jack Byrne's name was dropped into the hat straight away, And Zac was kind of, a dark horse in that. You didn't really expect him to be the player that ended up here. And in fairness to the club, now this is really weird because, like, one of my better friends over here, a man who's been in this room and sat here and had his dinner with me, is a guy called Henok Goitom, who plays up front for AIK. And not even he let me know that Zac was here. So they really kept the lid on this. And he was happy enough to tell me, yeah, there is an Irish fella here. Yeah, he's doing very well. Yeah, he's probably going to get a contract. But he didn't want to reveal the name to me, and that's a guy I'd be fairly friendly with. So, so he came over here sort of not under a cloud, but he was a very mysterious individual when he came over here. And then we found out who it was. And people here do know a little bit about him, or people involved in football would, because of, we all know that he was spotted playing for the under-21s against Sweden. And when Bartosz Grzelak then was looking for a winger, he was with the under-21 setup at that time. Now he's AIK's head coach. And when he was looking for a winger, he just went, "Okay, Zac caused us all manner of trouble. Go find him," So the AIK scouts went out and they watched him play, a good few times, and they brought him over here, and he's done really, really well. So in the beginning, he wasn't expected to start games. They thought, okay, we're bringing him in the middle of the summer. Okay, so it's the middle of the Swedish season, but it's actually the off season for Zac, and people are playing in England and Scotland. So they didn't actually expect him to be that fit. And Zac was off the charts. So they brought him over, and, like all of a sudden, his fitness levels were so high. His speed is just uncanny. It's incredible. It's a fantastic asset. His skill, his intelligence. And then after, I think his first two appearances were substitute appearances in the Allsvenskan now in the league. And since then, he's pretty much started every game. And every time you see him, he's really, really grown into the game here and grown into the club.
Yeah, brilliant. And that's what you want to hear from an Irish perspective anyway. Gerard, do you have anything to add, anything to say?
Yeah, just you were saying there, because we followed the league kind of closely on this show through Zac's involvement, and it was interesting that you touched on it. It's a league that no one seems to want to win. Now it's down to AIK and Malmo, but up until last weekend, Elfsborg and Djurgården were still in the race, and they're going to be battled out for the last European spot. Just like how bonkers has the league been this season? As we said, like, it's been so tight. You've had 4 teams in the rounders, and it has pretty much kind of captivated the thoughts and the imaginations of the Swedish public.
Yeah, well, it always does, lads. So football over here is very different to the way that we grew up watching football. So I assume you lads are interested in the League of Ireland because you're interested in Irish football in general, right? But here, there's always been the thing of you have your team in England, or you have your team in Scotland, you have your team in Spain, and you have your local team as well, right? They have that great history in Europe with the IFK Gothenburg sides of the 80s and the early 90s who made it to the Champions League. You had Malmo getting to the European Cup final, the precursor to the Champions League in 1979, only losing by a single goal to Nottingham Forest. They've had British coaches over here. Roy Hodgson has been over here before him. There was plenty of coaches over here. So they've always had that attachment to English football, but there's always this attachment to domestic football as well. They have a long history going back. AIK, the club that Zac plays for, goes back to, the late 1800s. This has been around for a long, long time. So it's really ignited things this year, because the culture at the moment is that Malmo had a couple of seasons in the Champions League group stages. They're just going through one now. They're not going to make it to the Europa League. But back in 2015, 2016, they were there as well. And they became, the money bags of Nordic football in the way that Rosenborg were 20 years ago. The FC Copenhagen have been at times as well. So they have huge amounts of money. They should just walk away with the league. They could sign any player. It doesn't matter who it is. Nobody can compete with the wages they could play. But they didn't. They won the league last year. They won it, it was okay. I mean, I wouldn't have said it was one of their best league victories. Hugh Gordon had won the league a couple of years back with Irishman Kevin Walker in the team. His father, Pat, is from Carlow. Kevin born and raised over here. They did it with a very good, solid side. AIK have a very, very experienced side. So you have the mix of Sebastian Lawson, who played an awful lot of games in the Premier League and the Championship. Mikael Lustig, who used to play for Celtic. Henok Goitom, my friend, who used to play in La Liga and in Serie A and has played in MLS. You have a couple of guys there who've they've got serious club careers under their belts, plus these new players, the likes of Zac. Nobody expected this season to be this competitive. Nobody expected AIK to be up there, because what they're missing, the problem with Henok is that this is his last game on Saturday, right? So their striker, their number 9, is just getting to the end of his career, and they don't have that 20 goal a season man that you really need if you're going to win that. And, Malmo could go out and just buy that guy. So, but until last weekend, like I say, it was very competitive. I mean, AIK basically burst the Elfsborg bubble. Elfsborg, of course, were beaten by Pats in European competition about 10, 12, 13 years ago when Richie Sadlier was still there. Still a very good side, very technical side. They've always tried to play their football on the ground. But AIK had probably their best away performance that I've seen, not just this season, but in several seasons, going down there and beating them 4-2. They came from 1-0 down, I think, and 2-1 down as well. And they beat them, and it was an incredible away performance. And AIK have been pretty terrible away from home all season. Their away form has been shocking. But to do that then, to put the nail in their coffin, to say, okay, if anybody's going to challenge Malmo on the last day, Malmo haven't been great lately. Djurgården were kind of disappointing as well. It's like the league that nobody wanted to win. And what's most annoying, lads, for the other clubs, the Cinderella club is Malmo, the chance that everybody has had. Now, it's going to be extremely difficult. AIK have to win at home, which they'll probably do against Sirius. Malmo are playing against Halmstad, and Halmstad is this little town on the west coast, nice little football team, little bit of a yo-yo club. They have very little chance of beating Malmo, and to get to the last day, and when you think back over other games that AIK have played, just one goal here, one goal there, slightly more solid in defense, slightly better in attack, and they could have been walking away with it, could still happen. I'm not going to rule anything out at all this season. It would have been magic for Zac to get that in his first season here, yeah, but it's been really exciting. And I think people would prefer to see a good tight title race where you have, a team from Malmo, which is down the south, a couple of teams from Stockholm. Everybody likes to see that. Elfsborg is over on the west coast there, just north of Gothenburg. So it's great because most of the country is involved in one way or another.
Yeah, you kind of ran through all the kind of permutations there. So as you mentioned, Malmo playing Sirius at home on Sunday, despite their team name, they actually have nothing to play for. But that's AIK. Malmo, they have to play Hampstead. But just look at the table as well. They need a win, because if they lose, there's a good possibility that they'll end up in the relegation playoffs. So with that in mind, would you kind of strengthen the possibility that they could get something off Malmo, or is it just going to be they're where they are on the table for a reason? It doesn't matter what their motives are.
Well, you know what? I wouldn't rule it out, because this is the kind of thing that we've seen a lot in Nordic and Scandinavian football the last few years, right? This is really, really competitive on down at the granular player level. These fellas are playing for, the wages that you'd be on in the Allsvenskan is a completely different kettle of fish to the second tier, the Superettan, right? And the tier below that, again, Division 1, which is split into North and South, is a step down again. There's a prestige that goes with that. There's cash that goes with that. There's viewers' eyeballs. There's agents. There's scouts. There's managers. There's other clubs watching this kind of thing. So those guys are playing for Halmstad at the moment. They're not just playing to avoid relegation. They're playing to keep their careers on track. None of them wants to slide out of this. None of them wants to be the reason that Halmstad go down. And Halmstad is traditionally quite a strong football town. So Janne Andersson, the current Sweden team manager, would have come through that club on his way up to the very top of Swedish football. So I wouldn't rule it out. I don't think that Malmo this year haven't shown the kind of character that they showed a few years ago when Marcus Rosenberg used to play for West Bromwich Albion, used to play for the club. They were a very, very hard team to beat, and eventually they would find a way to beat you. And that was what got them into the group stages of the Champions League. It wasn't because they were brilliant. It's because they played football like men. They went out there like grown-ass men and they played the game. I don't see that in this Malmo team. I think they're mentally a little bit brittle. And I think that they've left it to the last minute. They haven't been convincing at all. A team like that, you kind of expect them to get to 20, 22 games played, and then they should have another gear. They should have the squad They should have this sort of competitive streak to get into another gear. And they haven't really shown that at all. Their Champions League performances have been really embarrassing. Some of the red cards that they've had have been terrible. And they're not red cards that, this is a team that's under the caution, you have to take one for the team. No, it's guys who haven't been able to control their emotions, guys who think that they're better than they are, and they think, screw this, I'm just going to kick somebody. There's no discipline to them. They have discipline, but certainly not the way that they would have had in previous years. So that's where I see the weakness really in them. And I do think that Halmstad, the fact that they do have something to play for now, even if they end up in that relegation playoff, I don't see the teams that are coming up from Superettan being good enough to see the Halmstad are playing in the Superettan to replace them next year. But nobody wants to play football this time of the year, lads. Not in Sweden. You don't want to be out playing football in December. I think Zac is off after this game is over. I think on Tuesday he's pretty much done. And then they're not back until the 10th of January. Everybody wants to get this done. So Halmstad are not going to want to hang around for another week and, keep training and keep working away. If they have to do it, they'll do it. But I think they'd love to get that result against Malmo. And I think, as well as that, can you imagine being, the right back or, the central midfielders at Halmstad? If they were the ones to stop Malmo winning this title, then every agent, every sporting director in the country is going to go, hang on a second, who are these lads? Who managed to stop them doing that? And that can only be a good thing for those players and for the games that we're going to see on Saturday.
Yeah, definitely great stuff. And just a quick one in terms of, say, AIK have guaranteed Europe now. Do you think that might affect them next season, regardless of whether they win the league this year or finish second? They'll have qualifiers, obviously, as well. Do you think that will affect them like maybe it's affected Malmo this season?
Yeah, it's difficult, lads, because it's kind of like the Irish setup again, because basically European football is so gerrymandered now that the top teams are going to make it, and they're always going to make it to the group stages, and the rest are really fighting for crumbs, which is why it was so brilliant. I'm from the north side of the city, I'm a Bohemians man myself, but I was delighted to see Shamrock Rovers doing so well. I was delighted to see Pats doing so well when they were over here playing. I was delighted to see Cork City come over here and get a couple of decent results as well, because we need that for our league, right? And AIK did make it into the Europa League a couple of years ago, I think it was, but there was no buzz about it. And this is a team that in 1999, when I moved to this country, they played against Barcelona, they played against Fiorentina, they played against Arsenal in the Champions League, and the buzz around that was immense. Now, next year they're going to be in the Europa League qualifiers, they're going to be in there again, and it's just, I can't get excited about it. I would prefer to see a sort of a North Atlantic League where you would have Shamrock Rovers playing against Rosenborg or playing against, Strømsgodset from Norway and Brøndby from Denmark. And I think there would be much more, once after a couple of years when that settled down, I think we'd all enjoy that an awful lot, But I do think that it's a really good challenge for them now, because they're going to have to build a squad that's capable of getting them into the group stages of the Europa League and, taking this challenge that they've made. Say they finish second in the league this year, taking this challenge that they made and turning that into a title-winning side, So you have Zac who's come in, you have an awful lot of really good young players. Bilal Hussein is central midfielder. He's going to be a top midfielder. So you have them, and you have the more experienced heads there. So I think it's going to be a really interesting project that AIK is going to be sort of undertaking, and that Zac is going to very much be a part of.
Brilliant, yeah. And just a quick one, even the way Zac has done so well over there, would you encourage other Irish players who are maybe looking for a club, maybe being considered, offered contracts to go abroad? Would you encourage them to go over to Sweden and play their football over there?
Lads, when it was announced that Zac had signed for AIK, that was just before I went to the Olympics in Tokyo, and I was on my hands and knees going, at last, somebody has taken the plunge and coming over and is coming over here. And I know how difficult it is, right? I know how difficult it is when you have an option from a team in England. You feel that you're going to be seen. You feel that, if I go up north to Scotland or whatever, they'll see the results. It'll be in the papers. It'll be accessible in a different way. Now, I think Zac has realized that, through social media, through people like me living here, through people like yourselves covering his career, that out of sight is not out of mind anymore. I can tweet the goals from Discovery Channel, who have the rights to the league over here, and people can see what he's doing. I can talk to him. I can tweet with him online. We can do podcasts. We can have conversations like this. And people can actually follow your career very, very closely. And I would highly, highly recommend it. And what's great now is that Zac has opened the door to people, right? Because people are on to me going, okay, Zac Elbouzedi, who is he? What does he do? And what they expected was, Roy Keane. They expected, not to be detrimental to Glenn Whelan. Glenn Whelan is a fantastic footballer, was a playmaker at Manchester City, but was turned into that sort of, destroyer, a midfield destroyer by Trapattoni and others. Glenn had a fantastic career, but that's the kind of thing that they expect from Irish or British players. And then people were saying to me when Zac had signed, they're going, like, who is this guy? I went, okay, that is absolutely not who he is. This is a footballer. It's only 2 yellow cards, lads. It's embarrassing, only 2 yellow cards all season long. And people are thinking he's going to be sent off every day of the week. But he's a fantastic player. And what he has shown them is this intelligence, right? His ability to cross the ball, his ability to evaluate the situation. If he hadn't hit the crossbar so many times, like, I sat in the ground a couple of times, he's hit the crossbar, I go, oh, I wish that had gone in. That would have been the greatest goal by any Irish player, male or female, anywhere this year. But he hit a couple of crossbars. He scored a world-class goal when he eventually did score one. And against Elfsborg the other night, he hit a fantastic shot with his right boot that ended up being spilled by the keeper. And Nicola Stefanelli went in and put it in the back of the net. And that was pretty much game over there. So, you will be seeing, if there's anybody, who's running out of a contract in the League of Ireland or is pissed off in League One, the Championship, lads, take the opportunity, right? Because you can get to live in a city like Stockholm or a town like Halmstad or a city like Gothenburg. You can get to experience something totally different. I mean, Teddy Sheringham played for you going over here. Peter Crouch has played over here for some club down the south, as far as I remember. Take that experience. There's a huge shop window here to get to places like the Dutch League. There's lads going straight from the Allsvenskan here to Serie A clubs, So this is a fantastic shop window. We need to drop this thing, this British-centric thing that we've always had about our football. And this was the same when I was growing up playing football, lads. Somebody who's offered a trial at Arsenal, brilliant. That's the greatest thing in the world. Somebody offered a trial at Marseille, about why would you go there? So I really think that if we look at this in a mature way, but I do think that our players are more mature now. I do think that they see this more as a career than, the desire to play for Liverpool or for Manchester United or for Celtic. And I do think that Zac doing this, the connections that we have in Belgium and Royal Antwerp, is it Josh Cullen is playing there at the moment?
Anderlecht, yeah.
Sorry, that's where he's at Anderlecht, of course. So, seeing players like that do that, we've had, was it Killian was in Poland and that kind of thing. The more fellas that do it and the more success they have, because that's, Zac playing almost 20 games in his first season, starting 17 or 18 of them, coming second in the league, maybe winning the league. I think that's going to open an awful lot of eyes. This is the most games that he's played since he played for Waterford in the League of Ireland, So I think there's everything to recommend it. And I think he'd tell you himself as well that he loves the fans here. He loves the fact that people would stop him on the street. The kids will want to take pictures. He loves, I saw him one time when he was being substituted and he went off at the far side of the pitch and he walked behind the goal and back over to the dugout and people applauded and wanted to take pictures and everything else like that. I mean, Jesus, who wouldn't like that? When you could be playing in England or in Scotland in front of 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, there'll probably be 40,000 here when they're playing serious in the last game of the season. A game they'll probably win. They may not win the title. But, I've seen games there this year with 16, 17, 18,000 people week in and week out and singing from minute 1 to minute 90. I mean, Jesus, there's much harder ways of making a living than playing football in front of that, boys.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're spot on there. Jared, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, just one last point. I think you kind of nicely teased up there. You're talking about Zac, and you touched on it there, like Sebastian Larsson and players like that. So we can see there's players from this league that can get recognised in international level. And you said obviously we'll keep a close eye on the boys in green. How far do you think Zac is potentially getting a call away or a call up to Stephen Kenny's squad? With obviously March now in mind, the next international break.
I would say he's very close, because I'd say that he provides something that the Irish squad doesn't have at the moment. And it's crossing, but it's not just crossing, it's a variety of crossing, right? So the way Zac hits the dead ball is fantastic. Now, the problem is that he has Sebastian Larsen in front of him in terms of taking free kicks and corners. But when Sebe is injured or suspended, Zac takes him. And he had a couple of assists, or at least one assist the other day. I was there the first time that Seb was suspended or injured. And Zac had 2 corners and 2 goals were scored from him, And, when you're working with somebody like Sebastian Larsen as well, I have never seen a young fella so popular in the club, lads. Everybody wants him to succeed. He wants to see him get better. So when it comes to the national team, Stephen Kenny knows him well. He knows exactly what he's good at, exactly what he's not so good at. Now, I'm not going to sit here and criticize Zac. I think he knows himself the things that he needs to do. He needs to be a little bit more aggressive, And again, I was only semi-joking about that 2 yellow cards things, right? Because, there's so many times I see him go into a situation. He's probably right. He stays on his feet. But sometimes, he could go in there, he could throw himself into a tackle and just let a fella know he's there. Make sure that, they're not going to take any liberties with him. So, and it's not a case of toughening up. I think he just evaluates the situation, goes, look, I'll stay on my feet and I'll go. But his decision-making has been really, really good. I do think though that there's just that little bit that's lacking, and it's not to do with anything internal, intrinsic to him as a player. It's just the fact that this is the longest run of games he's had. He's played twice as many games this year as he did last year, you know. So I think he's played in total maybe 20 league games, which he hadn't played over the last 2 campaigns, you know. So, and it is coming, and I'm seeing him like literally from the time I came back from the Olympics and the first time I went to see him play live, he has gotten better and better and better for every game. There was one little dip there, I think, in a game where nobody in AIK played well. But other than that, you can see the improvement week in, week out. And the respect that he gets from defenders. Martin Olsen playing for Malmo, you know, left back who's played in the Premier League for Norwich, he's played for Blackburn Rovers, you know, the respect he's getting from these guys because they're calling their wingers back. They're wanting help because they were getting roasted by him the first time they met him. Like the first couple of times down, I've seen him tormenting fullbacks. And every team then has to pull a winger back. And that opens up for Mika Lustig. It opens up the inside the pitch and that kind of thing. And that's a huge mark of respect. And I know that Keith Andrews knows what's going on here. I know that Stephen Kenny knows what's going on here. And I'd say it's only a matter of time. Now, you know, with the Nations League coming up and that kind of thing, I think it's only a matter of time before somebody drops out and Zac is going to get a call up. And then it's up to him then to go and show that he can be part of this squad, that he can sort of contribute with positive energy. He can be that guy who can go in there and make a difference. If it's water bottles that need to be filled or balls that need to be pumped, and he can go out on the field and he can hit 50 crosses, 50 different kinds of crosses, and give his centre forwards a real good chance of sticking them in the back of the net.
Oh, sounds encouraging. So,
yes,
there you go. He still hasn't sent me a Christmas card, that young fella.
It's only the 2nd December. So still
the Swedes will be very organised now. If he's heading off on Monday or Tuesday, I'd hope he has it done by now. But you know, as I say, he is, and privately he's a very nice lad as well. And you know, doesn't go out, doesn't do anything. You know, we had I was hoping that, you know, you have to try to split up the two, right? You have to try to be a journalist, but you have to remember that this is a young Irish man abroad. No more than if either of you were to move over here or your viewers in the morning and they were to reach out a hand to me and say, can you help me? Of course I'm going to do that. So I remember saying to Jack during the summer, you know, we have a Gaelic football club over here, the Stockholm Gales. Gaelic football is actually very strong in this country at the moment. And I just sent him a text and I said, look, Zach, we're going to be training on Friday night. Like, you know, so if you want to come over and just say hello to the lads and that kind of thing. I just texted me back and he said, listen, thanks very much. We have a game on Sunday, so I'm going to be at home resting. I thought, brilliant. You know, I mean, I don't take offense at that. I don't take, oh, well, fuck off then if you want to just sit at home. No. That was him being a professional footballer. And that's how he is. The game comes first. And even he'll come home now to Swords during the Christmas break and he'll work hard and he'll keep there. And I'm sure he'll enjoy his Christmas dinner like everybody else. But, you know, come St. Stephen's Day there, he'll be back out working hard in his game. And that's why, I mean, it's not just that he's a good footballer. It's not just that he's an Irish player to go. You want to see good, hard-working people succeed, lads. And I do think that, you know, things are going to pay off for him. Maybe, you know, on Saturday with a league title, although I hope it does. But certainly next year and in years to come, I think we're going to be hearing an awful lot more about Zac Elbouzedi.
I know I definitely won't be working off the Christmas dinner on Stephen's Day anyway.
I'm still working off last year's Christmas dinner.
Brilliant stuff, lads. I think we should leave it there. Anyway, we've got a lot of stuff there. Thanks very much, Philip, for coming on. Been really good to talk about Zac and learn a bit more about the Swedish league as well. Hopefully AIK can get the result on Saturday for Zac as well. And are you going yourself?
Oh, I'll be there, yeah, 3 o'clock. Because again, you know, Zac's last game, but then Henok Goitom, as I say, Henok could be a very good friend of mine. We used to run a soccer club, himself and his 2 cousins. And he is one of those guys who maybe didn't have the sort of stellar career that he should have had. You know, I honestly thought that, you know, he had a chance to go to Celtic at one point. He didn't get there. So, you know, you want to be there to pay tribute to somebody like that. And then, you know, as soon as the final whistle goes after 90 minutes, we can start looking forward to next season already.
Yeah,
exactly.
Brilliant. That's it. That's what you want. Just want to say thanks very much again. Thanks very much to Jer as well for coming on. And thanks very much to everyone who's going to watch. Fantastic stuff. And see you again soon.